talk about the VOD and the silver screen. Kevin and Tom and Joe know all there is to know, from masterpieces to deep fried tacos. And if the movie sucks, you might hear them say, there's no telling where the guys will take you. Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, cause we already warned you. Better watch out, it's gonna ruin the plot. Real spoilers. Real spoilers. Real spoilers.
Broadcasting from the lush but not lavish studios located in the basement of the O'Keefe Institute for Advanced Film Snarkitude, this is Real Spoilers, episode 738, Renfield.
Perfect.
Dracula 2 would have been.
I don't even care enough.
Dracula 2.
Dracula
That's pretty
2.
good.
It's a direct sequel to Dracula.
Which one?
Dracula.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's like Halloween.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Which
Don't
one we
get him
talking
started.
I shouldn't get
Don't
him
get him
started.
started.
Hang on,
So
hang on.
here's the
I can
deal.
save this. I can save this. Wrestling.
Oh, okay. Well, as a matter of fact,
Perfect. Yeah, great. Great segue.
Phew.
Thanks.
bullet avoided.
Yes. So let's go around the table and everyone can introduce himself.
Real quick, I was listening to last week's podcast.
Can't even be bothered to introduce himself.
I'll get there.
Who is this talking?
But you said virtual table while we were sitting around.
Did I say virtual?
The real table. Oh, this is Joe.
I'm surprised no one called that out.
No one listens.
That's also true.
This is Kevin.
And this is Tom. What you don't know is my table is all digitally rendered.
Yeah, right,
It's
right,
all
right.
CGI.
Yeah.
So,
it's just a green screen.
It's a virtual table in person.
It's a cardboard box painted green, and we digitally put in.
You know the Patreon? That's where the
that's
fun's
what's going
going.
for.
That's
It's going to
Digital table.
green paint. It's all going
Thanks,
to green
patrons.
paint. Yeah. And joining us via the magic of ZoomTube, he is around a virtual table, at least from our POV. It's James Enstall from Geek To Me Radio. Hey, James, how's it going?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming back.
Long-suffering listener.
These guys thought it was only fair. You had to come on for Eternals last time, so
Well, I'm glad you've come around, Kevin. It's good. I'm glad you've
I
come
love
around
Eternals.
Before we dig in, shameless plugs, don't forget we're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you find a podcast. You can find us while you're there. Be sure and follow us so you never miss an episode. Maybe leave us a review. That's always helpful. You can also find us on the Facebook, facebook.com/Real Spoilers. While you're there, like the page, join the group. It's called the League of Show Shares because we're hoping you will share an episode. It's the easiest thing you can do to help us out, and we greatly appreciate it. People who were kind enough to do that this week include Lane Levanway, Ralph Tribble, Tammy Lynn Powers Betts, Phil Timon, Chris Valls, Chris Sanders, Chris Magic Man, the Chris Trifecta in play, Julianne Jordan, Gabriel Lugo, Josh Rosen, Dissect That Film, Brent Smith, Heather Sachs, Braid 1991, Spoiler Piece Theater, Invasion of the Remake, End Session Film, Geek To Me Radio, I Screen, You Scream for Podcast.
That's good. I like that one.
Ronnie Castle, Ryan Terry from the Force Crowd Podcast, Nostalgia Cast, Colby Mack, Matt Niglia, Mike, and Oscar, Binge Movies, and Feelin' Films. So thank you very much. We greatly appreciate it. And finally, don't forget we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Real Spoilers, where for $5 you get all sorts of bonus content, and we like you extra.
And we have Iron Man in the can. No pun intended.
We're
Is that
starting.
the porn parody?
That's a porn parody. Yeah, that's right.
We're going back and covering Phase 1 since the podcast wasn't around for those early films. So the next one coming out will be Iron Man.
Yeah, that's fun. It is crazy to think that we weren't around. Considering we've been around for so long.
10 years? 10
Yeah.
years next month?
I know, it's crazy.
10 years
that,
next month.
We missed Phase 1. Like there's a whole thing in Marvel that we didn't
You guys
cover.
ready for the big celebration, the big 10-year celebration?
Are we getting Dan and Blake back?
I don't know. You know, the first movie I ever wrote a review for was Hulk, I think.
Like the Ang Lee Hulk?
The Ang Lee Hulk, yeah.
Really?
Well, maybe we'll have to have a guest on
Who? Ang Lee? Eric Bana.
with the Patreon.
Oh, Jennifer Connelly.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Jennifer,
okay,
yes.
perfect.
That's what I was thinking.
We're not covering the Hulk.
We're not?
We're covering the Incredible Hulk.
Oh, you were... Okay.
Yeah.
He covered the bad Hulk.
Oh, okay. The badder Hulk.
No. The Incredible Hulk is a good movie.
We'll save it. You can't say that.
I
on
can
this,
say it right now.
No, you can't say that on this episode. We have to
teaser.
save it.
Yeah, that's right.
It's a
that's right.
teaser for the
No,
I'll
it's
just,
no-
I'm just going to beep
Yeah,
out
it's
whatever his
nowhere
reaction
near as
was.
Yeah.
It's not that Ang Lee Hulk is real bad.
What do you think,
real bad.
James?
Horrible.
That
made me
away.
almost- That made me almost not want to be a comic book fan anymore after seeing Ang Lee's Hulk.
There you go.
Oh, you should have grown up in the 70s. You would have never bought another comic book with the things we were subjected to.
At least he wasn't filming it in 240 hertz back then. Jeez, can you imagine having to watch it like that with the fast motion stuff?
Such a bad movie.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Renfield. Let's dig in.
This was I had a lot of fun at this movie.
I had a blast. This was so thoroughly entertaining, and just like check your brain and have fun with
This
it.
movie was bad.
Oh, but okay.
I did not like this movie in any way, shape, or form.
Interesting. So I don't disagree that it's not a great movie, but I had a lot of fun.
I didn't have any fun at all in this
It
movie.
knew exactly what it wanted to be in its tone. Like, I wouldn't say this is a great film,
It
but
was woefully miscast. I thought Awkwafina was awful. I thought Nicolas Hoult was awful.
Interesting.
Like, I thought they did not know how to make this movie funny. I did not laugh one time.
all right,
Not one
guys,
time.
let's gang up on him because we all loved it. I really felt like they knew what it wanted to be. This is directed by.
Bad? They wanted it to be bad?
Bad.
Then hat tip. Well done. You did it.
But the tone of it, they all knew what movie they were in. They were all being silly and over the top, and with the blood and the kills. Like, there's no way watching this movie. I mean, there's no confusion over what you're watching. Like,
That's
of course,
true.
it's not supposed to be
You're
serious.
watching a
It's
bad movie.
It's silly as can be. This is directed by Chris McKay, who directed the Lego Batman movie, one of the best Batman
I will say
movies out there.
I am kind of glad he didn't do Nightwing. After watching this,
It's a different Nightwing wouldn't have been.
But there's the tone of his style of action comedy. After watching this, and like I said, I had fun at this movie. It is not a good movie.
Yeah.
I had fun at it though, and I'm really glad he didn't do Nightwing.
I don't think it's a bad movie though. Like,
I
know Tom thinks it's a
think it's a
bad
bad
movie.
movie.
I don't
I think
think
it's
it's bad, but I just think that it's a movie it's a popcorn movie. It's not supposed to be a great film. It's supposed to be
But it's supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be a comedy.
I thought it was funny.
I didn't laugh.
How did your audience react though? Like, did your
Did you see
audience
the
have
screening?
There was like 5 people in
See,
there.
I think that's
they were nerds who were convincing themselves they were having fun.
okay. I was
So the people there weren't really having fun.
it's the old Phantom Menace thing.
They were like hooting and hollering when there's like 3 people in the theater.
But see,
that's
imagine,
weird.
Imagine a theater full of people
so that's
hooting and hollering.
that is what
right?
we had. Is we had a really good, like, it was a 3/4 full
Yeah.
theater, and everybody was enjoying. You know, they would laugh at the right parts.
Yeah,
so I think
people laughing
that
out loud, like
that
doing-
adds to
Yeah,
it,
like
right?
nothing about this movie made me laugh.
Interesting.
Like, I did not laugh at one joke. Not one joke. And there were times where I was like, oh, that would have been a funny joke if you had said it properly, but you totally, your line delivery was so substandard that you completely wasted the joke.
What about you, James?
I loved the movie. It's never going to win an Academy Award. It will
Right.
never be like considered for, not even best cinematography, best sound effects, nothing.
Right.
But this film is going to make my top 5 movies of 2023.
Oh my
And I'll tell you, it was the perfect combination. It was like What We Do in the Shadows meets Kill Bill. The comedy didn't come from the actors. So to Tom's point, he's right. It came from the absurdity of the situation and the characters finding themselves there. That's why I didn't like their line deliveries. Awkwafina's she gives great line delivery in comedies, like we saw in Crazy Rich Asians and everything. She's capable of good comedy. I don't think any of the actors had to try. Nicolas Cage was not trying to be funny. He was channeling Bela Lugosi, and you saw flashes of Nick Cage as Bela Lugosi as Dracula, which I thought every single beat of this movie felt just right once I realized what I was in for.
I think that's a great that's a great observation. And I do think you're right. Is the line delivery and the jokes didn't hit. Where I was having the most fun is like just the absolute absurdity when he punches that guy in the head and his head flies off. And
Yeah,
it's like
like the first time I was like, okay, but like the 50th
here's
time,
the other
The
issue.
gore and the kills
But
were
here's
great
the-
in
here's
this
the-
movie.
it just got boring. Like I wasn't like grossed out because it was so fake looking that like
That's
it,
the problem.
Like nothing, like, and then that's fine. Like they're not trying to do a Cronenberg film, like so like, and I wouldn't want that from this movie. So
Yeah.
like, I'm not upset that it didn't look like
No. That's the
graphic and
comedy
real
of it,
and
is it's
disturbing.
supposed to be,
but it was
yeah.
like they kept going back to that, over and over and over again, and it was just like it was every time it was less funny, and for me it wasn't that funny in the first place.
That's fair.
And I was just like, what are we doing?
I think-
and I like the stuff. So I like the premise of the film. I like the idea of he's in this toxic relationship and the self-help stuff. That's the high point of the film, and the fake universal
I loved
movie stuff at the beginning.
Yeah.
I
'Cause
was
at the beginning I was like, oh, okay, I like this. Like this could be really good.
So do you think that they superimposed
Yes,
Nicolas Cage's
they
face
CG'd.
onto Bela Lugosi?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
That's the real footage.
That's
This
crazy.
is a Universal movie.
No,
They've
that's
got
fair.
access to
Yeah,
it.
that's fair.
I was watching that part, and I thought it looked so good the way
Yeah.
that they
It
implanted
did.
them
It
into
looked really, really good.
I was like, why doesn't anyone make a movie that looks like that? I would watch a whole 2023 2-hour movie filmed in black and white on real cameras. I'm like, I love the feel of a film like that.
Because I don't think
Yeah.
I know what you mean if you have a big budget and you want modern audiences, but I would love to watch a movie that looks like that.
I was almost like, give me that movie
with him as.
but give me basically the young Frankenstein version of Renfield.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
This is a weird, because we've had like these strange comedic reboots of these Universal stuff. Like, wasn't there a Frankenstein one?
Robert De Niro.
Oh man, have you seen that?
No, I've never-
You've never. It's
Yeah. Are you talking about I, Frankenstein?
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein?
no. There was like it was
I
with
Frankenstein with Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah.
That was
Oh,
real bad.
that
We
was
covered
bad.
that on the show.
did.
As a matter of fact.
I think we're in the theater
we
for
were
that
just
together.
coincidentally, yeah.
No, it was like Daniel Radcliffe was
Oh.
Victor. Is it Victor Frankenstein?
Victor Von Doom.
That's Van Damme, according to the. But I think there was like a weird that was supposed to be
It's
a comedy.
Frankenstein, by the way.
Yeah, why are you saying it like that? Why are you walking that way?
Okay, that scene in the help group when he goes, yes. Well, I don't know why are you saying that way,
Yeah,
but
that's
yes, go to your full power. That was
what
so
a
freaking
weird way
funny.
to say that. Why would you say it that
I
way?
thought that guy
That
was
guy was
hilarious, and I thought those lines were really funny. So that's one time where I
And
was
maybe I
laughing.
would have found it funny if like it wasn't in the trailer in its entirety and played in front
I
of.
didn't watch the trailer.
That's-
See,
I mean, you go to a
you've got-
movie,
you
like,
have to
they're
stop.
gonna
look
show-
at your phone.
I do, but
Yeah.
like they're
Yeah.
loud.
I'm just saying, like, how many times lately have last episode? I think like people keep bringing up whatever the trailers, and that's my whole point. And the reason why I keep harping on it is like I don't want movies ruined by the trailers.
Yeah.
I want to go watch them, and I want those jokes. I want to be surprised by what happens. And so like I'm not trying to be a snob about it, but I found when I stopped watching trailers,
It's just when you
know,
go to a movie, and
totally.
I even show up late, but there's only so there's only so.
It was Victor Frankenstein, starring Daniel Radcliffe as Igor
And
James McAvoy as Victor Frankenstein.
No
but
recollection.
that's not a straight
Written-
comedy though.
It's written by Max Landis. Say
Yeah,
no
but
more.
it wasn't-
the epitome of scumbag.
Did that get swallowed when
I think
like
it,
he got
that's
canceled?
probably not what we should say.
Yeah.
That's not.
Poor choice of words.
Yeah,
But that wasn't a wacky comedy like this one. Like it's a different tone than
That's true. Yeah, the epitome of a guy who thought he hit a triple but woke up on third base.
that guy. But yeah, I enjoyed the comedy beats in this, and to me, it just felt like it knew what it wanted. Like sometimes movies try to take themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
I will give Cocaine Bear as the most recent example of a comedy that like tried to be too good, where we said this should just be dumb. It should be stupid and over the top. And
I'll only
and
disagree with that because it was treating. I feel like that movie. I've actually gone back and rewatched it because
It's on
Paramount-
Peacock.
because you're on
yeah.
cocaine.
Correct. But like it's trying to emulate the tone of the movies that it's ripping on.
But it's too good.
that's the
It
yes.
looks too good. It's too competent.
It's trying to redo that tone.
Some movies, are too good and they don't know they're trying to be wacky, but they don't know how to get the tone right. And then some movies are like too silly. Thor 4 is a great example of a movie that the comedy elements in Ragnarok work, but when you go too silly, it undermines some of the serious stuff and the action. So this
How
movie,
do you come back from that?
4?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think there's any in production of new Thor movies. Like he's not under
think he said-
contract.
You have to almost get a Kenneth Branagh to come back and really bring the tone back to the first movie.
Yeah, it's gonna
if
be
you want to
so-
come back from Thor 4.
It's going to be really jarring to get another Thor movie that's like, by the way, he's a badass Viking again and he's slaughtering people.
Is Thor? Is he in Guardians 3?
No, I don't think.
Oh, because
think so.
they split up in 4.
Because
They go-
that
they
kind
go
of
their
explained
separate-
how they separated
Yeah.
because they were together at the end.
It's just, I think if they have another Thor movie planned, that's going to be a crazy tone
Well,
shift.
I would be happy for Taika to go back to making his own original stuff. His original stuff's so
Yeah.
good. Like, we had fun with Ragnarok, but let him make his really
go
good
back and
movies.
do one like Ragnarok because Ragnarok was great.
But let
He was
someone else do
trying.
it. He's done. He's done two.
But the problem was he got all the feedback on the comedy, so he's like,
Yeah.
"Well, I'll give you more of the things you liked."
Well, and I
Like,
think they
that's-
also
yeah,
said
that's fair.
Ragnarok made a ton of money, so I think it gets harder and harder
Yeah.
to give him notes. When you hire someone like Taika
Right.
Waititi, you hire him to Taika Waititi it up.
Right.
And
And he
they're like,
did.
well, it worked. So
Speaking of what we did in the
Yeah.
shadows.
yeah, that's a great movie. But so my point is that this movie did not feel like one of those movies that didn't understand what they were trying to do. Like, it set out to make this zany, silly, like maybe not irreverent, but like the over the top kills and stuff, and it did, and it delivered. And I found
But it
myself
also wastes a lot of its own time, considering
Yeah?
it's 90 minutes.
I was going to say.
really, I felt like it like
All the cop stuff, none of it pays off.
Oh, you mean
All the cops are corrupt, no payoff. Like
Well, they do all
the
die.
thing with her dad being whatever, and then no payoff.
That is, I thought they were going for
Why-
yeah, I
why
think
was
the payoff
any-
is they're all dead, so now she's cleaned up the
Well,
department.
I
you know?
thought that, they were saying like your dad was the most uncorruptible cop, blah, blah, blah. And you can't, I thought I was like, okay, so she is corrupt. Like she did something for this crime family
Yeah.
that maybe got her dad killed or something. But to your point,
no, he was the only one that
they
wanted.
never reference
They
anything.
killed him because
Yeah.
he was the only one that wouldn't do it.
but then why would they protect his daughter?
Yeah, I think they would have wasted more time had they gone into a big backstory on her. I think it's like
Well, then,
I think
why set it up? Is my point. Like, why
for the
even have it
sequel,
in there?
Renfield 2.
So they wanted to give you a reason to care about the detective or the police officer. They wanted to give you a reason. They can't give you no backstory on her, or she would just seem expendable. I think they wanted to give you a reason to root for her and why you want her to team up with Renfield and why you want her to.
To that point, I mean, we root for her in Shang-Chi. They don't give us a backstory of her in Shang-Chi. She's just
But she's not. She's a lead character in this.
But she's the lead character in that too. She's the second lead in that movie.
Yeah,
She's
a female lead.
She's
Yeah.
Shung's best friend.
Yeah, I just think it's different when I really think she's like a main character in this, where she's what the main character Shang would be in Shang-Chi. She's a main character in this. Like, to give her no backstory and just have her be teaming up and trying to take on Dracula and take on the mob, I think you would have just
I
felt
think
a
her
little-
character is equivalent in terms of screen time and importance as Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
I
mean,
mean, say
she- the-
Shang-Chi, though, she is the best friend, and we automatically are going to root for the best friend. We do it in television series, movies, whereas this one, she had no connection to Renfield other than the fact that, she's now, if you want to call it a meet cute when they end up killing a bunch of people in a restaurant, but she's now the ally. So I guess that's why they felt a little bit of a backstory was necessary.
I agree. I'm all for characterization because I think one thing
I am
that's really
too,
lacking.
but like I felt like they spent too much. They reached this tipping point where they spent so much time on it that
And then they
there's
forgot about
then
it,
there's
yeah.
just real no payoff.
Yeah.
And there's no there. I mean, the end of the movie is just wholesale slaughter, and they're just like, and she's just like, well, I guess I'm the only person that decides whether or not you get arrested for all these murders.
Yeah,
so
right. It's
just
the old The Man of Steel ending.
away
where
with
it's
you.
like, hey, you know that guy you just murdered and you feel really bad about it? Why don't you go bang Lois and not worry about it at all, ever?
all right, so story wise,
Yeah, so you get, like we said, we get a retelling of Dracula and Renfield. He's a real estate agent who's trying to sell the castle or buy the castle. Dracula's castle, is that right?
He's trying something.
Yes.
he's trying to.
I think he's trying to buy the castle from Count Dracula, and then of course Dracula in the 1932, right?
In 1931, I thought, and again,
Okay.
I'm not much of a reader, so I've never read the original book. Any of you who have met me in person, I don't look like a reader. But I kind of thought that they were kind of conflating, because in the movies that I've seen, Renfield's always the inmate under Steward's care.
Yeah.
I felt like this was kind of a mishmash of Harker and Renfield that they kind of put together for the character for this.
Oh,
That was
interesting.
my kind of understanding, but I did not see all the Dracula movies, and I didn't read the book, so maybe I was wrong.
I haven't seen the 31 version in, decades. I actually have started to go back and rewatch the Christopher Lee Hammer stuff, and that stuff is wacky. Like,
Yeah.
the first two are really good, and then they just get like, whoa, boy. So, yeah, he's basically he calls him a familiar, and I was like, are we watching Blade? Like, I know that from Blade. Like, that's what that's from.
Right. I think you will find that Blade took that from the lore of Dracula.
That could make sense. That makes total sense.
That's like, we talk about that sometimes when you're younger and you watch the newer movies or whatever.
Right.
You're like, oh, that's from this. But it's like the more now it's starting to happen where kids are watching movies in 2023
we're like, hey.
and we're like, hey, that's from my movie in the early 2000s. Where Tom was like, yeah, I told you that. That's not original.
Yeah.
They did that.
You know that gag in Mario Brothers? The Three Stooges
Right,
did it.
exactly. Tom mom's always telling us that stuff. Now we're at the point where we're starting to tell people because we've seen enough movies.
And it's going to get worse before it gets better.
I know.
Oh,
Also,
like,
it's not going to get better.
It's not going to get better.
Like when they say, "Oh, they were born in the 1900s."
Yeah, I was like, hey.
That's what the kids now say. Is they say like all of us were born in the 1900s. Could be 1901. Could be 1999. Doesn't matter. The 1900s. It's like a dagger.
It's like, well, you're not wrong, but still.
Yeah, don't say it like that. Yeah.
But then they give, in the 31 version, they wrap up that story pretty quick. Also, I think Bela Lugosi might be the only actor to play all of the Universal monsters except for the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Really?
He was definitely Frankenstein in some of the later stuff. Maybe he
was definitely the Wolfman.
He was the Wolfman?
Yeah.
Okay, so
I
think he played the Mummy too.
I loved his characterization of the Bride of Frankenstein.
It was great, right?
That
was very.
I was very conflicted.
But he was also the Mummy, yeah. At one
now
point.
wait a minute. Did his Wolfman have nards? That's the
they all
question.
have nards.
All of them?
Yes.
To show you the impact of Bela Lugosi's Dracula.
Yeah.
To Kevin's point, kids today.
Yeah.
If you were to ask any of the kids today to impersonate Dracula, chances are, without knowing it,
Hand over the face.
they would do
Adam Sandler.
an impersonation of Bela Lugosi.
Adam Sandler?
Well, kids today, they all grew up with Hotel Transylvania.
Yeah.
Oh.
Who is?
Blah, blah, blah.
But he's doing a Bela Lugosi.
But
everyone's doing a Bela Lugosi.
Yeah, like you would. Yeah, you would.
Yeah.
You would get a Bela Lugosi.
The arm over the
impersonation.
face.
Yeah.
Like, that's exactly what
And
that
then
is.
I call him to Dracula.
How about Gary Oldman?
I need to rewatch that
That's
movie.
a wild. If you want to talk about a wild movie,
What a ballsy move to put your name above the author's name. Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula.
they do that, man.
Based on the novel Push by Sapphire.
I do need to go back and rewatch that movie. Somebody was just, Matt Gorley and Paul Rust were just talking about that. About how, like, it was, when it came out, it was like the craziest thing anybody had ever seen.
Yeah.
My favorite piece of merchandise from that whole movie was that they put out a novelization of the movie. It was just Dracula, but it still said Francis Ford Coppola's Bram
That's so
Stoker's
good.
Dracula,
Oh my gosh.
and then it was just the book Dracula, and I was like, wait a second.
That guy will. I mean, he's got his winery. He's a businessman.
Speaking of Francis Ford Coppola,
Yeah.
he does have a nephew who's in this movie.
Oh, hey, that's
Yeah,
right.
that is true.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of an interesting connection. I didn't even think about that he did Dracula and then...
Nick was like, hey, can I be your Dracula? And he's like, no.
Absolutely.
I got
Not
Gary.
yet.
I
Wait.
got Gary Oldman.
He's
Wait
like, you
30
changed
years.
your name.
Yeah. You bring
Why
shame
don't
on
you
this
get
family.
Francis Ford Cage to put you in a goddamn Dracula movie, bitch?
That's funny.
I gotta say too, I just realized a mistake I made. Lugosi did not play the Wolfman. That was Lon Chaney. He played Frankenstein, and Frankenstein meets the Wolfman.
Yes.
Which is what I was conflating.
There
Yes,
he is.
you're
So
absolutely
I got
right.
that wrong.
Yes, you're
So
right.
he
you're
didn't
right.
have nards.
I guess he
he wasn't even the Wolfman.
Well, Lugosi did not have. Well, I'm not going to say that.
Frankenstein had nards; they just weren't his.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could you imagine? That's the movie I want to
James,
see.
where do you stand on Monster Squad? Because that's what we're making fun of.
Well, I would have
You
to,
are real close here, James. I got a mute button.
No,
No,
he
I would
doesn't.
have to say that was not my favorite movie of all time. So
He can stay.
You know what? I'll allow not favorite movie of all time.
He was a lot nicer than we are.
that's
That's a
enjoyable.
win for me.
I'm not going to say I
right,
didn't
that's-
enjoy it.
I feel like
Yeah.
right now, I like the look on James' face is the look that Brian used to get when his mother would ask him which parents he loved the most.
Oh, boy. Oh, man.
I might go back and rewatch Monster Squad today. I don't know. We'll see.
Do it.
So we basically get like a rundown that Renfield is given a fraction of Dracula's power, and the only way he can access it is by eating bugs.
Is this a new thing? I thought that they were like enchanted bugs by Dracula or something. Like Dracula does something with his
No,
powers.
because that's a running gag in. Did you ever see Dracula Dead and Loving It with Liam?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a running gag in that
I have,
movie.
but it's been a long time.
the guy that play
That's a Mel Brooks movie, right?
yes, and the guy that plays Renfield is the guy who's like Vigo's familiar in Ghostbusters 2. That
Okay.
actor
Yeah.
is Renfield in
Right.
that, and he is eating
He is-
bugs.
okay,
in that.
so it must be. I've never read the book, and it's been a long time since I've watched the old movies. Talk about a movie where the comedy doesn't work. I mean, I love Mel Brooks, but have you tried to watch
I've
Dracula
not
Dead and
wa-
Loving It recently?
I bailed on Mel Brooks on the later stuff.
Yeah.
I've never
It's
seen
not
it.
good.
It had some good parts. Harvey Korman was hysterical.
There are definitely moments in it,
Forgot
but
he's in that movie. You're absolutely
But
right.
I'm
He's
a
Dr.
huge
Seward. He's at the hotel because he's telling Renfield, "You just ate a bug." No, I didn't. Yes, you did. You did. You're putting one in your mouth now. No, I'm not.
yeah. No, there are definitely. I mean, it has moments, and it is Mel Brooks. Like, it's not going to be without any merit, but that's a movie that's hit or miss.
And it's more misses.
I
than
tried to
hits.
watch it recently because it's like free on some of the streaming things, and I was just like, oh,
Get what you pay for.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
know.
If you're a little kid, it's probably great.
Right. I mean, that's
I think
less-
that's true.
Like,
yeah.
but the later Mel Brooks, I'm sorry, Spaceballs just doesn't work for me.
So
Oh,
people
even
love it.
Spaceball doesn't
I didn't
work?
like Spaceballs
Oh.
at all.
there's
And
a line. There's a
Yeah.
Mel Brooks line where he stops being
it's Spaceballs,
not controversial, but
but like Spaceballs, it was like he. It's like when your favorite band starts to get eclipsed by other bands, and then they try to sound like the new bands. And like it was like, oh, I need to sound like Zucker Brothers. And I felt like Spaceballs was Mel Brooks impersonating Zucker Brothers.
the Zucker. Oh, because the airplane and all that stuff. Yeah,
and
okay.
and it just never worked for me. And I feel like it's an age thing because most people that seem to like it, like they saw it when they were younger.
Yeah,
I love Spaceballs.
I love Spaceballs.
Yeah. It's got a lot of great-
Speaking of bands that have made it, have you heard the new Metallica album?
I've not.
It's fantastic.
Oh, okay.
It is like old school Metallica. It's
Nice.
dope.
So this movie takes place basically most of it like 100 years later. So it's set in modern times. They've been doing their thing.
What he does is he falls out of power. Dracula does. He goes on a killing spree. The good guys show up. They beat Dracula. Then they have to move. And
I like how they
keep
say, like,
shuffling off.
basically it's been 100 years and, like, times are tough. Like, the money runs out.
Yeah.
There's only so Renfield's running around trying to lure people in, and it's just like, it's
Should have sold that castle.
see, should have made a good deal. But look at the real estate deals now. It's probably worth way more now.
Yeah, you
true,
would
yeah,
think
right.
if you make your familiar a real estate developer that you'd
You'd be all right.
be all right.
Yeah, you'd be
But
sitting
you know
pretty.
what? The money, it depends on how you live, right? I mean, maybe they did sell the castle. They lasted 100 years and money's out.
Gone.
Got to
He
move
needs
into
to
the
go
Gotta move in.
find a crypto bro.
Dracula.
They spent all the money on candles. Did you see that set? That's what they spent all the money on.
So they're living in the basement of a hotel? or-
No, it's like an old hospital.
Okay.
It's like an old hospital.
Oh,
And
it's supposed to be an old insane asylum.
that's what I
isn't it?
thought.
Yeah.
That's definitely the way it looks.
Yeah.
I don't know if they said that, but it's definitely an old
So that's a
hospital.
real hospital in New Orleans that is
Oh, really?
has been closed since Katrina, since 2005.
I wouldn't go in there. That sounds terrifying.
And apparently, like, sometimes people see stuff in the windows, so they think it might be haunted. So
Oh, really?
kind of a good location for a spooky,
Yeah, if they
Dracula
actually
lair.
used it. Do you think they went inside and used it? That wasn't a set?
Oh, it's probably a set. I'm just saying,
Okay.
like, it is
It's got
based on the
exteriors
exteriors.
and- The
and it's
exteriors were
based on
great.
the
Isn't that what they do that with The Shining? Like the exterior is not the same as the interior for the hotel,
Yeah,
right?
like the one hotel's in California and the other one's
right.
in Colorado.
Yeah.
That's right, because you can visit one of them.
you can go to
think
both
that-
of them, I think.
Yeah, I think the interiors is the California hotel and the exteriors is the
yep,
Colorado.
That's what it is.
Okay.
If they don't have that carpet, that's a huge mistake. They better at
I'm
least.
pretty
on
sure
one
they do.
level.
My sister went there. I was so bummed because I was like, you don't even like movies. And she just happened to be. She's like, oh, and then look, it's where it's
the
the hotel
Stanley,
The Shining
right?
was based on. Yeah, that's the name of the hotel.
Yeah, the real one.
and the-
It's the Overlook in the...
oh, that's right. Yeah, the Stanley.
Yeah.
Is, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I was just like, you don't deserve to see this hotel.
Do you have any idea how many times I've read that book and
Yeah.
seen the movie? You don't... Yeah, I get to go. You don't get to go.
This is an outrage.
So the movie does kind of a flashback type thing. Like, he starts at the support group, and Renfield's like, this is kind of how I got here. But the main thing is that they build up the relationship like it's an abusive relationship.
I mean, it is.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I thought it was really clever. So now the idea for the movie is by Robert Kirkman, who did The Walking Dead.
I
right?
gotta tell you, that makes total
Yeah,
sense.
That's the idea, the concept. So he has, like, if you look at the credits, you're like, boom, Robert Kirkman. It's an idea by credit. So this is written.
My favorite review I've seen of this movie, it just said, this is like someone had a successful elevator pitch and panicked. And I'm like, yeah.
but so it was his idea, but
Okay.
this was actually written by a Rick and Morty writer. So we've had a couple of those lately that we're starting to get this based on the popularity of that show. Like those writers are starting to get pretty big gigs. Ryan Ridley is the main guy. He also wrote some episodes of Community, the Sarah Silverman show, Rick and Morty. I think he's been on like 13 of the episodes, so he's done a lot there. But so when you're looking at it, like at first I thought, oh, this is written by Robert Kirkman, but then I looked at it and it said idea by.
Here's the thing about Robert Kirkman.
Yeah.
He is a great opening guy.
So
He
he's
has a
J.J. Abrams. He has the ideas. He
Yeah,
just doesn't
like,
know how to follow through.
I think that I dropped off The Walking Dead at issue 100 because I stopped caring. I did finish Invincible, which if you've never read is incredible. The show is also
I
just.
can't
as good.
wait till that show's got to be coming back soon,
It's coming
right?
back, yeah.
Okay.
But there are others like the end of The Walking Dead is kind of like, okay, like he gets to a point in that book where he says he has it, and I'm not going to on Robert Kirkman. Like that dude is like this number 2 guy at Image right now. Like he's parlayed those 2 books into a massive career.
Yeah.
But like the ending of Invincible kind of makes sense. But when you get to issue 100 of The Walking Dead, it's like, where are we going here?
But how? I mean, to be fair, man, that's like, how do you?
I think he painted himself into a corner.
It's such an impossible. So when you're talking about a zombie apocalypse, it's like, how do you end that in any medium? Like, especially if you're writing issue after issue, it's like,
Well, it
where do you-
basically comes down to: do you want a realistic ending or do you want a happy?
Right.
Right. And the
Yeah,
realistic
and is
ending
there
is
a happy ending?
we
with-
die.
Yeah.
We don't make it.
Right. And what is your happy ending? It's like, okay, so we've.
And it's like, well, we told you it was a zombie apocalypse.
Did you ever hear the story about how he got that pitched through at Image?
No.
Is he said that they were going to be like aliens? Because the people at Image were like, a zombie book is never going to work. That's never going to work. He's like, no, they're not zombies. Like the thing is they're going to be aliens. And the guys at Image were like, okay. And then they went through. He's like, never mind. And so he ended up writing with Ryan Otley, the artist for Invincible, like the pitch that he did at some point. So that exists somewhere. I don't know if it was like in an anthology or something, or issue 100 maybe, where it's the ending is the alien ending, where all of our heroes are back to being alive and they've been abducted by aliens and now they're fighting and they've got lightsabers. Like it's crazy. But yeah, so
this movie really is about Renfield. So Dracula's in the movie, but it's called Renfield, and it's about Renfield trying to get away from Dracula. And so we see Nicolas Cage's Dracula kind of being restored because he's been in fights and people have, these vampire hunters have been after him and he's losing his powers, and they show that like when he gets really burned or whatever, he can heal, but it takes a long time and he needs like really pure blood. He needs,
innocent blood.
Yeah, so he's asked for a bus full of cheerleaders. I thought that was funny when he's asking for
that
people.
That was a great gag.
And then he goes to the bar and he's like, oh my God, they're
me?
all right here.
Nuns.
There's a bunch of nuns sitting there at the table.
Yeah.
a happy couple.
So he wants all the innocence or whatever to be restored. And I thought the makeup.
I don't think cheerleaders today are as innocent as he's giving them.
Yeah,
credit
he's
for.
talking about early 1900s.
I just don't know that would be as effective as you might.
That's true.
Think
he has he's old. He has a very old school point of view.
The makeup on Nicolas Cage post getting burned, I think is really good.
I thought it was fantastic. The practical stuff that they did on him and whatever CG.
He actually burned his face from the
right.
He just stuck his face right in a campfire.
Really creepy, really scary,
like skin hanging off.
Yeah, I loved the makeup in this.
No, it was really good, and that is one of my complaints is the amount of CG. Like I hate it. I hate it so much because I think there are so many talented makeup artists and special effects guys that still exist, right? Like I understand that this isn't the 80s and 90s where that was like the heyday of, Robert Kurtzman and Greg Nicotero and, all those guys. But there is just something, it's uncanny valley for me where it's like, you could rip that guy's arms off in camera, like, and just have the effect, but it's also
I think you have to. I'm 100% on board. I love practical. I'd much rather see it. It's just studios with inflating budgets. They're just not going to pay the guys.
Do you think it's cheaper to do it CG? I guess it probably is.
I think so because the cleanup. I mean, you have squibs go off. You have blood everywhere. Oh, we need another take. Clean up. And reset the whole
that's a good
thing.
point.
And if the shot doesn't work, you got to do it all over again.
That when he punches that guy's head off, that's practical,
right? They did. I mean, they just
which I thought was great.
Using prisoners on death row.
The biggest mistake they made with this movie is giving it a $60 million budget. That's the thing.
You think that's too high?
It's just too much budget for this type of movie, right? So it's just that when you look at what Blumhouse does with horror, right?
Yep.
If they would take more of a model of doing it for the $8 to $10 million, even you get the big actors and maybe work it back in deal or something. But to put $60 million into this movie, it's just not the type of movie that is going to be a blockbuster. It's just not. And
this is that we've talked about, like that late night HBO movie.
Yeah.
That's what this is. Like
this is Your Highness. It's just the kind of comedy that
that's a good comparison.
It's going to be really funny. Like I love that movie. I haven't watched it in a while. Maybe it won't be as funny as who's in it, but it's that type of movie where it's going to be funny. It's going to probably play.
What did Danny McBride do?
Nothing. He's
Halloween Ends.
Yeah, you know what? He is creative on that trilogy. He is.
He got one. He's batting .333.
Right,
Kevin.
He's one for. And he did that Alien movie too, though.
He wrote that movie.
Yeah.
That last Alien movie?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
So,
all right. He's
we got to combine those franchises.
1 for 4.
The thing is that it's just not going to make that much money. It's too big of a budget, and so I just think that they, going up against the other stuff, like obviously Mario's got the kids movie stuff going on. That it opened against the Pope's Exorcist or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that had a tiny budget, and it did almost as much.
So
as
does that
this.
mean that the Pope has an exorcist, or that the Pope needed an exorcist?
I think he has an exorcist.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's what that is.
Well, all exorcists would be the Pope's exorcist.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
This is actually kind of...
It's a Catholic thing. It is.
No, it is.
It's
Yeah.
a Catholic rite, like RITE. And when somebody makes a movie about an exorcist and doesn't have Catholics in it, they're wrong.
Jesuits.
Yeah.
The Jesuits. That's
It's cultural appropriation.
I don't think that's a culture.
Catholicism?
You don't think that's a culture?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't know. The Catholics I know, the Catholics I know haven't been very cultured. So
No, you're not wrong. I grew up with them. I grew up with them all my entire life.
Yeah.
It's fair, but they've kind of shot themselves in the foot because next week is Evil Dead,
right?
And it's like you're gonna get lost. You're gone
because
like,
you've got an IP and you've got just it's supposed to be
an
bonkers
IP that is like you think Renfield's gory? Just wait.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
but
what I hear.
that's going to be real gore.
Yes.
Yes.
trying to disgust you.
Gross
That's
out,
going to
right.
be somebody using a cheese grater on somebody's face.
But I don't think this gore is bad because it worked perfectly in this movie, but the horror audiences that show up, like that even did through COVID, that are paying, they're packing the theaters and showing up for this stuff. They're more, I think, looking for the Evil Dead gore than the Renfield comedy because it's just like, well, this is silly.
Right.
And so people that wanted to see a silly comedy, but we've talked about this for a long time. Comedies don't make money in theaters like
Not
they used
anymore.
to.
Not
so
anymore.
this is a genre piece and it's a comedy. So you're
But
limited.
they'll be on
They'll make
VOD in
VOD
3
deals.
weeks.
Right.
And
do
they'll
you
be fine.
Do you
It'll
think
be
that-
okay, but
Yeah.
but that budget is going to make them, break even and not necessitate a sequel. Where a $20 million that could make 60, they're going to say, oh, that's decent, and let's see.
I'm actually surprised the budget was 60 million. I didn't look at that when I was doing my review because I'm like, oh, this is a really, I figured the budget may have been like 30 million.
Right. This seems like a movie that might be 20 to 30. And that's what I'm saying is that I guess you pay Nick Cage up front. There's got to be Awkwafina gets paid up front. Like the budget has to go into, even though there's CG and stuff, but not so much to necessitate 60 million unless you're paying big paychecks, I think.
Do you, going back to that comedy thing, do you think that, was it Old School? Is Old School the one that kind of kicks off that rated R comedy boom of the late 90s or late 2000s?
I mean, Hangover.
That's 2009.
Well, I know it was first, but Old School didn't do what Old School was like. We found it on DVD, and this is like.
I think the first.
What was the one?
Wedding
Michael
Crashers.
Cera and Jonah Hill. Wasn't that the one?
Superbad.
Wasn't that the one they said? I thought maybe.
I think it's Wedding Crashers.
Was that R?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Wedding Crashers
Wedding
that
Crashers,
really. I mean, Old School was a hit.
I think Old School is
but-
better than Wedding Crashers.
But it was. I feel like it was a moderate hit, and then it really developed a following.
It was
on,
it was
on
a home video.
and then Wedding Crashers kicked the door down for an R-rated.
And then it was like Dodgeball.
And then Hangover took the record
Oh,
the all
yeah.
time because that just became.
Well, I think Wedding Crashers didn't have it, and then Hangover
did
took
Wedding
it.
Crashers get okay?
And then
Maybe
Hangover
did.
took it.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you think that
And
they're
Bridesmaids is in there too. Obviously, Bridesmaids came in strong with a rated R comedy.
Bridesmaids is fantastic.
I mean,
Yeah.
see, look at that time period. It's like for a moment, but that's pre-streaming. Before everyone had a streamer,
Yeah.
right? And so now it's streaming movies, because you can watch comedies. I mean, it's fun in the theater. I totally get it.
I think
fun
it's a
with the
different
audience.
vibe for sure.
But you can watch comedies at home, and you don't need a 300-inch screen necessarily to. It's not special effects.
Nope.
It's it's comedy, so they're telling jokes, and stand-up specials have been on TV for forever.
It is interesting to
just
see those
different.
stand-up specials that even now comedians are like, no, we're not going to Netflix. Like, I'll take it to YouTube.
Well, that's the thing too, is that they realize that now, especially the ones with an audience, that have that huge following. Well, if you can charge them and make all the money or whatever, but
And I get to put out my own product. Like, you don't get to edit my product.
exactly.
Yeah. So Renfield, he
Also, currently the highest grossing R-rated comedy of all time is Deadpool.
Oh,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
Totally.
At 362, and then Hangover at 277, Hangover 2, which was just
Real bad.
coasting on the success of
Yeah,
Hangover
big time,
1.
big time.
And then because Hangover took the title from Beverly Hills Cop.
Yeah.
And to show
sure,
you how
sure,
big Beverly Hills Cop is, Hangover 2 is at number 3 with 254 million. Beverly Hills Cop
1984.
is at number 4 with 234 million.
Dang.
So you're talking $1984 versus
2010?
$2011.
Why do I know
boy.
that? It's like, why do I know that? You know what I mean? Like, I nailed that. I don't know why I did.
Yeah.
Trust me, man.
With movie knowledge, it's weird with the years where you just
I get it.
for some but that's why I thought, because I'm like, I didn't think it was Wedding Crashers, but that's right. Beverly Hills Cop was so huge, and it made headlines. Just wow, this deep.
And that's
But
not- and that's
Wedding
not-
Crashers made $209 million.
Wow.
And
Which is
that's
still huge,
That's
yeah.
2005.
Right. But Beverly Hills Cop also isn't a straight up comedy. Like, that's an action,
comedy.
which was all the
Yeah.
rage in the
Same
80s,
with
right?
Deadpool.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
that's
that kind of
fair.
took it back over. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, action comedy was. Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
Lethal Weapon's an action comedy. Like, that's all.
Yeah.
I think. What was
48
it?
Hours.
48 Hours. I was thinking. I love Blues Brothers.
I'll give you Blues Brothers.
Smokey and the Bandit. Even
Also
I
a
guess
good
you could,
one.
You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
So yeah.
So plot wise, real quick. So Dracula's trying to be restored to his full power. Renfield's supposed to be going and getting him this innocent blood, but Renfield's having a change of heart where he's like realizing after finding the support group, which again I thought was really clever.
Well, he found the support. Like he's using
That's
the
what I was
support
going to say.
group.
I think this is really clever
That
the way
he-
they did this.
Yeah, like he follows somebody that ends up. He's following somebody to kill, and they're in this support group, and then he's like, "Oh wait, I can kill
Them.
the person that's tormenting
the person that caused these people
Abusive
to need to
boyfriend,
be in
the
a
overbearing
support group."
mom.
which
Yeah.
is a
Yeah, right.
which is just a really funny, clever
Yeah,
idea. Where he's like, I
the
don't want to
support
kill the
group
people.
stuff. I liked.
I like when he's like, I was following Bob because he looked like a really good.
Because why?
He was
He's
like,
a friend.
He's like, yeah, that's right.
That stuff's really fun.
But my favorite part of this whole support group is Nora, or the girl who's
that
like
they-
trying to
they cut
share,
off, yeah.
and every time she's like getting into, Renfield comes busting in. She's like, "Can I just share one time?" But I like the way she was just so exasperated. But yeah,
Yeah, so he falls into this. He finds the victims through the support group, does it in this clever way where he's like, "Oh, I'll kill the bad people, not these people looking for help." So then he follows.
But then that's keeping Dracula weak, right? Because Dracula needs innocent blood, and he's not
True,
bringing
it's
him innocent
right.
people.
He's not doing what he should. He's
Right.
right.
Yes.
It's right. So, but he follows the way that this plot gets kicked off with the mob and everything. Is the one girl in support group is like, my boyfriend's horrible, or whatever, and he likes ska, and then there's this through line of ska the whole time. They
Here's the
cut to the drug, whatever they stole the drugs, and they're listening to.
here's
ska.
the best thing. My buddy Jeff
Yeah.
loves ska.
Yeah.
I
Like,
love ska.
I do
like
too.
ska.
It's
I
a
like
lot.
ska
It's
too.
fun.
Big Fish, Less Than Jake.
Good stuff.
I like it
love
too.
that
Mighty Mighty
stuff.
Boss Towns, all good
It was
stuff.
a funny joke, but I like.
But
ska.
I really thought the final action scene should have
Been to a ska song.
Should have been a ska
Yeah.
song.
Yeah, but as soon as they're like, that's the worst. Is that the stuff with the horns? And she goes on and on about how it's very
That
different
was
and
fun.
nuanced.
That's really
That's very reductive.
Yeah,
like,
right.
it's-
Oh no, listen to
And
me.
I thought,
Yeah.
I immediately thought of my buddy Jeff, who
You should think of your wife when somebody talks to her about wrestling.
that's true.
She
Oh
probably
my
does.
gosh.
She's like,
well, no, I mean, it's really more of like theater of the absurd. Because,
I gotta tell you,
crap.
she hit me with something the other day. Where
chair?
She
A chair?
Yeah,
You're right.
in the back of the head. She's like, I thought I had him.
I thought you'd
taken-
like it.
Yeah. She's like, you love concussions. They're the best. You get them all the time.
Hey, whatever you guys do on your own time.
No, but she rattled off some wrestling fact, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, What? She's like, that was pretty good, wasn't it?
You were like, we have to do it right now.
Oh my gosh.
Let's go.
There's no bigger turn. Okay, so anyway, the way they tie this all together, which I thought was funny, so he follows the guy home, the ska-loving bad boyfriend home.
He's wearing like suspenders and like a wife beater is what I call it.
That's what they were called?
Yeah.
Checkered Vans.
Yes,
But
right.
so they have all these
Zoot suit
drugs,
pants.
and you're like, who are these guys? Well, find out they stole all these drugs from the mob, and so the mob is sending their hitman and their goofball. The son of the
Jason
mob leader
Schwartzman?
is Ben Schwartz.
Ben Schwartz,
who
yeah.
voiced Sonic. He's Jean Ralphio, Saperstein, and Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
I really like Ben
Dewey
Schwartz.
Duck and DuckTales.
Yep. I mean,
Is he really?
Yeah,
great.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The new DuckTales reboot. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's fun.
He's
That's
great.
a lot
I
of fun.
love Ben Schwartz. But anyway, so he's the son, the F up son of the mob leader.
If they do Plastic Man, there's your plastic. That's your plastic.
definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. And so he brings along with. This was another funny joke. What was the guy's name? Something Joe. What was the? That's an insensitive name, but you tell him. You try telling him that. I mean, I thought there was some really funny.
I think that there are
gags in it.
Chris McKay is a really talented director.
Yeah.
And I think that like I said, I'm really glad he didn't do Nightwing off of this, because I think that if he would have taken the tone that with this to Nightwing,
But
Nightwing didn't have to be.
That's
that
fair.
was my point that
That's
I didn't
fair.
finish earlier. Is that a Rick and Morty writer wrote this?
That's true.
You don't have
That's
a
true.
Rick and Morty writer write Nightwing
Yeah.
necessarily.
no, you have Tom Taylor, right?
I mean, the guys that wrote for Community could make Captain America. So anything.
That's
can happen.
true.
But
Man, what a
but this sense of humor, if you have a Rick and Morty writer, maybe don't get him to do it. But
no, don't do that.
But anyway, so he's there and he sends this big guy that looks like Bane, basically.
Well, Batman and Robin Bane.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean, you got a guy that looks like Bane, and he's going in there and he's killing all the guys, and then Nicolas Hoult, Renfield, has to face off with him. He eats the bugs, got the powers. But anyway, so now he's in the bad graces of the mob, and Ben Schwartz, hightails it out of there. I thought it was funny. He gets in the car.
He DuckTales it out of there.
Hey,
And he runs into Awkwafina, who's like on traffic duty or something. Like the police have basically relegated her to the lowest position because she won't play ball with taking payoffs and stuff. But anyway, she's out there and he drives his car right into this crime scene thing.
got drugs everywhere, throwing drugs at. I like that gag
they
too.
get
where
him and he's like,
throwing
take
drugs
this.
at
And then she's like, are you throwing cocaine at me? He's like, this isn't mine or whatever. It's funny.
with his family's logo on the package.
Yeah, but they bust him and then, he ends up getting off scot-free.
That's another gag where he's like openly giving up like all of the information he can, and the guy's like, "There's nobody in there yet. He's just talking."
I thought that was great. And no one's even asking him questions, and like they have him dead to rights with all his confessions. But he ends up getting out, and then Awkwafina's like, "What the hell, man?"
I will say it's a nice cameo. The gal that plays his lawyer.
Yeah, who is that? I couldn't tell who that.
So she's in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. Okay. She's the lead character. Her name is Stretch in that movie.
Okay.
Caroline.
In the city.
No, that's Leah Thompson.
Go.
Ray.
What?
Caroline Ray.
Oh, who's that?
Actor.
Oh, okay. But no, I feel like it's Caroline Williams. That may not be right.
Okay.
But she is like she's in all kinds of stuff.
Okay.
And
She's on the circuit.
Her character Stretch is an interesting character only because she's like who's the guy that Richard Belzer, who was the detective that he played.
Bunce?
Munch.
Munch. There we go.
Her character is like the Munch of like horror movies because she'll show Caroline Williams, I think is her name. She'll show up in other stuff. And then her character name is Stretch.
And Munch. Are you sure you're not thinking of the porn parody of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Okay.
But like when you look at her character name, like in the credits, it's Stretch. So she's shown like that character has shown up in all kinds of different stuff.
Got it.
But yeah, that's who that was.
So he's off scot-free, basically, and this is where we get the backstory where Awkwafina and her sister,
who works for the FBI, but
hangs out around the police
is in
station.
the same building as the police.
None of that made sense.
No.
And that was bad. That was bad. But
I was like,
she's like just getting some evidence and walking down the hallway.
But there's
there's
like a task force like in the building. I was like, I don't think that's.
I don't know. None of that. I was watching
works.
the same thing, going, okay, this doesn't make any sense. But,
Also, your sister's going to be the bad guy, right? Like that's where we're going with this. Oh no, we're not at all. Okay.
But they're like lamenting the loss of the father, who was this great detective, and the sister's like, hey, I'm mad too, but like, what do you got to, we got
deal with
stuff
it.
to
Just deal
do,
with it.
right?
Yeah. So then.
You got to build the case.
Got to build that case. That's right. So there's another set piece where they figure out, not only does Awkwafina figure out where this pen came from that was at the crime scene, but the mob has figured out that
she's a problem.
She's a problem, and then they're going to take her out at this club, which this club is crazy looking. Like this is something out of a 1980s movie. Like the way the big set piece on
Why
top
didn't they
of
go
the
to the
club.
club from Blade? They should have went
Because
to the
that
club
was
from
in
Blade.
that wasn't a club.
It was a meat packing.
It was
thing,
a meat
but I'm
packing.
just saying though, that would have been really funny if they went to like.
Depends on the kind of club. Some of them have meat packing.
That's true. That's a good point. That opening sequence of Blade is
So good, right?
So good.
Dracula.
Is it Steven? No, it's not even that. No, it's just like some random like techno song.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I thought it was Dracula. I guess I'm thinking of Matrix, but I thought they used
No,
it in that
it's just
too.
some random because they didn't have any money for that budget. They were gonna, yeah. And then you know who the vampire is in that movie that gets the guy to the bar?
No, I know Steven Dorff.
It's
but...
Tracy Lords.
Oh.
Porn star extraordinaire.
That's right.
Well,
Oh.
and here's the thing: can't find her porn anywhere ever.
Just one.
Just because it's illegal.
There's only
She
one.
was 16 when she did
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Oh,
she lied about her age. So it's not like she like
She lied about her age, and they made all this porn, and then
Oh my
and then there's
gosh.
only I think there's one
Yeah.
porn she made over the age of 18, and they had to like pull all of it off the market.
yeah, 'cause it was all underage.
Yeah.
but yeah, she's
So they go to the club, and there's
Yeah.
so Nicholas Hoult sees all the cheerleaders and the nuns and everything. He's like, "Oh my god!" And then Awkwafina is showing up because she finds the pen that came from the place that I guess Nicholas Hoult hangs out at or whatever, gets drinks at. So they all coincide, and then Ben Schwartz brings his whole mob army there, and there's this huge scene where this is where you get exploding.
He's taking
bodies.
he takes like a dinner plate and cuts a guy's arms off.
This
That's
is
you
so
know.
poorly edited.
It's really like this is what I'm talking about. Like this is the kind of stuff that drives me crazy. Is
thought it was
There's
fun.
where there's
I
a scene.
enjoyed it.
There's a part where Schwartz gets a fork in the neck.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then they cut to him, and he's just standing there. He doesn't even have marks on his neck. And then they cut away, and they cut back, and now he's got his hand on his neck. And then they cut back and cut away and cut back again, and he has nothing on his neck, and he's just standing there. Like and it happens like 2 or 3 times that it toggles back and forth between him having
Yeah.
a massive neck wound and having no neck wound of any kind.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
there was
because I was
this
like
is-
at first I was like was it just a guy who looked like him and I was only half paying attention?
No, he got stabbed.
because I've already decided this was bad, and it was like
Yeah.
no, I was still
See,
following.
yeah,
It
you
was
were in
just-
the nitpick all the little details.
I'm
You were
the
all
near-
It's a pretty big. You
if you're gonna
stab a
sh-
character in the
Totally.
neck.
No, that's valid. I'm just saying you
Yeah.
were looking at every little every
I
little
really
detail.
wasn't. I kind of felt like I was checked out,
but also like
And it still stood out. to
But
me.
I think once a movie, I'm guilty of that. Like
Yeah.
when a movie does something and you are out,
That's what I'm saying.
Then you're like,
you're paying
oh,
attention
I'm
to
not
every
like,
little
yes,
thing.
yes.
I
for
was
sure.
just having fun with the ridiculous kills to where like I wasn't paying as much attention to that stuff. I mean, which is valid complaints. I thought it was fun because the absurdity of the kills, it really sets the tone. If you hadn't figured it out already, which we did a little bit back at when they found him at the drug guy
Yeah.
thing or whatever, but I enjoyed the heck out of it. I
Also, how tall is Nicholas Hoult?
think he's decently tall.
Well, maybe Awkwafina's very short. I don't know.
I think that
But
could be
like
true.
when
I
they
think
were
he's
standing
probably like
when-
6'2" or something. He's a
Okay,
tall guy.
because when they were standing side by side, I was like, that guy is a giant.
Yeah.
Like, why is he? Where we lost James?
Oh no. Oh, R2's here.
Oh, good.
maybe you had to pee.
He must have.
There he is.
Hey.
No, I'm still here. I was checking on my dog because I heard him screaming
Yeah.
earlier. I wanted to go check.
Oh, thank you.
But yeah, like he just looked like a giant walking next to
Yeah,
her.
he's a big
You know,
guy.
he auditioned for Batman.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, there you go. So this is where he and Awkwafina's character, who also
6'3".
That's
that's
all right.
pretty close.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
is that 6'2"?
That's pretty
That's
good.
with his shoes on. So he's 6'3". So that's where.
Got lips.
So this is where those characters. So her last name is Quincy, who's apparently a character from the Dracula novel. So they did a little.
Oh, is that
clever,
right? Okay.
clever-
She's 5'1".
Okay, so he
so
would look like
6'3"
a giant.
and 5'1".
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
Your eyes doth not
Doth
deceive
not deceive you. Yeah. So, but the other thing that we talked about last week was with Dungeons. Not I guess was it Dungeons and Dragons? With Dungeons and
No,
Dragons.
Mario
Last week was
last
Mario.
is
But it makes sense that you would have completely forgotten Mario.
I've already remember the Olestra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, just prove him a point.
Yeah.
Next week you will admit that this was bad. Go on.
Now I've already admitted that it wasn't good, but I had fun with it. Where
I will accept that it might be a deep fried taco,
I'll give you that one for sure.
but this is not a good movie.
No. Where we talked about Michelle Rodriguez and Chris Pine have this completely, like, totally normal friendship that's not romantic.
Yeah.
And I think they wanted this to be a romantic thing, but to me, it came off as a friendship. It came off as like he was enamored with her because she was not because he was attracted to her, but because she was able to stand up for herself, and that's something that he couldn't do.
I mean, that's true, but I think there definitely was I read it as a romantic.
I think they wanted it to be.
And there might be an hour and 36-minute version of this movie where they are. It wouldn't surprise me. But,
but it doesn't need to
they
be.
leave so many things unresolved at the end,
right?
That like not from like a cliffhanger standpoint, from shoddy craftsmanship, but that it would not surprise me because like you said, the meet cute at the beginning was clearly like they were enthralled.
Yeah, sure.
So to speed along, so there's really two more things that happen before the end of the movie. So she ends up finding out, they go to the support group, Dracula is invited. Oh, two things. I like that he had a welcome mat at his house. This was very clever.
I like that. Like, there was some.
I appreciate they stuck to the rules.
Yeah, it's like, how's Dracula in his house? And he's like, oh crap! And his mat says, "Welcome, come on in," or whatever.
That's a gag in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the movie.
Oh, really?
Like the reason the vampires can get in is because like on the front of the building, it's like anybody who wants to learn is welcome here.
Oh, okay.
So that's how they gain entrance into the building. I was
see, and because of your knowledge of that, we're like, that's so original.
No, that's like an old vampire, like a vampire.
No, I know
has
that
to be invited.
just the cleverness of the
way they exploited that rule.
You can be old man for a second. So back in my day,
hey, they didn't say Salem's Lot.
So that was clever, and he comes in, and he's basically like, "What are you doing? You need to, I'm gonna mess you up. Like, you have one last chance, get me the people," or whatever. So later on we find out that he goes to the support group, Dracula kills all the support group people, explode in crazy ways. He's just totally takes them all out.
I didn't like this at all.
That he killed all the people?
Yeah.
Awkwafina
the only thing I liked less than this is the fact that then they bring them
all back.
Like either kill them or don't. The ending of this movie should have been Renfield enlisting the help of the support group to attack and win the battle. Like, it should have been like they all have unique talents that will help them band together and beat the villain.
That would have been a really clever
that should have
ending,
been the ending of this movie. But to kill them all
and then bring them all back
and then not I was like, I don't like that they killed all these people because they're totally innocent people, and it's like there's none of this is
but
funny.
They only killed them to bring them back.
But then to bring them back just felt like, oh yeah, that was a bridge too far. Like, either do it or don't.
I think if you're gonna kill him, that's fine, because I will say the way Nicolas Cage is playing Dracula is he's kind of playing him like a goof, and he's not really that bad of a guy.
Yeah.
So if you want to make him the villain,
right,
the hardcore,
and that's why I said either do it or don't.
Right.
But to try and have your cake and eat it too, I did not like.
But
that
in this
at all.
movie, see, I agree. I love what you wrote for. I love that. But in this movie, because of the tone of it and the silliness, and then at the support group, because we're jumping way ahead, but they're drinking Dracula blood at the support group because we see Dracula's blood can heal people.
Also, where did those bodies go? How did they get to those bodies?
Right. But this is the type of goofy movie where I don't need explanation.
There's one line.
Yeah, you had to come in with a heavy suspension of disbelief in this movie to begin with. So
once you realize that's what you're doing, I mean, they set the tone of it, and I'm not questioning things like that, which again are valid if you're trying to pick things apart. But it's like, it's just not that movie.
Yeah, right.
Like, Your Highness, I'm not asking questions. It's just a silly movie.
He's asking for more Natalie Portman.
Always.
See, where I thought they were laying the groundwork for is there's a line in the support group where one of the guys is like, and he can control rats with his mind. And I thought that guy was going to also be from the world of Dracula. And then it's like, he's not crazy. That
he's been around
and that he was going to be like, I can help you do this. I'm here. I know exactly what's going on, and I can help you.
So the two big action sequences. So Awkwafina sees that all the support group people are dead. Dracula's gone. Obviously, she doesn't believe that Dracula killed them. So she brings in Nicolas Hoult. She has him handcuffed. He's not fighting her on it, but he goes with her, and they end up. This is a little bit of the cheap part because all the cops show up, and they're like, "Hey!"
All the cops and all the mob show up.
They want to get Nicolas Hoult because they've got him on all the security cameras. They know that he's trying to stop the mob, so the mob is now going after him. Cops all show up. She ends up realizing they're all dirty and like, "No, I'm going to bring this guy."
Every cop in the
right, but she shoves in the back of her car.
It is New Orleans.
That's fair.
But she shoves him in the back of her car and escapes them all. And then it's like the next morning they're just at the apartment, and then she's injured. Like, they skipped over it because they clearly didn't film that scene or didn't have a way to get her out of it. Like a huge chase with the whole police force.
Right.
So they just did, right? So that's definitely cheap. But she wakes up there, all the cops and like SWAT teams and mob guys are all there at the apartment complex, and you get this crazy multi-level apartment complex.
I thought this was great.
Right?
Yeah, this is a lot of fun.
So much fun with
Loved
them.
it.
Yeah, jumping off the balconies and killing the guy.
When that scene when he jumps off the balcony and the guy's like leaning over the balcony and he jumps on his back and he splits him in half and like kind of gives Awkwafina like a thumbs
That
up
slow
as he's falling down.
Yes,
Yeah.
I thought this was
I
so
enjoyed
much
that a
fun.
lot.
Loved this part of it. And then
when he tears that guy's arms off and he
they
starts
start fighting
beating
them with the arms. Yeah. So anyway, so that's a really fun.
Like that's some trauma toxic Avengers and I am here for
That's
it.
what I'm- yeah.
The fact that like that it is absolutely out of a trauma movie.
Right, but that's
and
the
the
movie
fact that
this
it is
is.
in like a movie that got put into normal theaters, right? You weren't going to see Toxic Avenger on normal
a movie
screens.
by Universal with their character Dracula. Yeah.
The fact that there's a Toxic Avenger movie even in the works right now is insane to me.
But it just, I mean, everything's getting rebooted.
Yeah, that's
so you've
true.
got that scene, and then basically he convinces her that they have to team up against the mob. Like she believes him now about Dracula and powers and everything, and so they're gonna team up. They go after the mob, who like their headquarters. I feel like it's on Main Street. Like it's just weird the way that their mob headquarters with the gold columns feels like it's just on the
It
street
was very
next to the
60s Batman.
Very much so.
next
That's
to that.
great.
It's
That's great.
Like right next to the Applebee's. There's the mob headquarters. So anyway, they go there, and then there's another huge action set piece where they end
We
up.
find out that the mob has now teamed up with Dracula, and Dracula has
That's
not only does he have one. I like the idea that Renfield will eat bugs, but of course the mob guy is going to snort it like
a big crawling
Centipede, like
centipede. Yeah.
But instead of having one familiar, now the entire mob are familiars.
They show up to find Renfield at Dracula's little lair, and then Dracula kills all the guys except for Ben Schwartz, and is like, wait a minute, and realizes he can use him and his army, his mob army.
I gotta tell you, that guy's mother, her voice creeps me out.
Great voice for
She's
that
got a
type
great
of-
voice, but yikes.
I feel like it's getting raspier as she gets older.
Wasn't she in an X-Men movie?
Yeah,
I thought she was in Ms. Marvel. Wasn't she the bad guy in Ms. Marvel?
Oh,
She was in X-Men.
The voice sounds-
The Last Stand.
she was in the
Yes.
Expanse.
Existence?
The Expanse. That's a show, right?
There's a show,
Yeah,
yeah.
The Expanse.
She's on that.
I only
She
saw
was-
Existence with Jude Law.
And he
yeah.
bought those pills, Extends.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, those are different.
That's you have to get.
But she
those.
was on 24.
So I never watched 24.
Oh, okay. It was
like-
good at the beginning.
Okay.
Like the first few seasons were really
So
good.
the first
Oh,
3
is
hours
that,
of the day.
Yeah.
Alicia Cuthbert was
Yes,
the daughter.
it is.
And then
Girl Next Door.
She's also in a really good movie called House of Sand and Fog. It's kind of
Oh.
a gut punch of a movie, but
Yeah,
it's really
okay.
good. It's got Jennifer Connelly in it.
Hey now.
Yeah.
Alicia Cuthbert, Jennifer Connelly, sold.
There you go. Oh, she's only a 7, Joe.
Who?
Jennifer Connelly. Didn't you see the discourse?
Who said she's a
I
7?
know, right? Well, the entire internet's not happy about it. Some bozo that said, look at actors today.
Jennifer Connelly is a
I know.
44.
I know, and everyone's like, she's a 12 on a 10 on a
Good
bad day.
Lord.
Yeah. But anyway,
Go
so
watch The Rocketeer and tell me she's a 7.
everyone told him that he's wrong. Like, it's
Yeah.
opinions, but you're wrong. Yeah. So there's this huge sound. Dracula has now teamed up with the mob and turned all of them into, and they've all got powers. And it's just a big
It's a big fight.
Yeah.
But my favorite part of at the end is earlier in the movie we're told about a shield circle basically.
yeah.
And
I just got to point this out. I'm scrolling through that actress's.
What's her name?
I don't remember.
Oh, sorry. I thought you had.
It's at the
She's
top
not
of
Ms.
the page.
Marvel. That was Nimra Buka. I was thinking of Ms. Marvel, so it was not her, but they have a very similar voice.
Okay.
oh, okay.
Shohera Agadashlu.
Oh, there
so
you go.
I hope I said that right.
Him say that.
I didn't know.
But you were talking about her voice,
Yeah.
and she's the voice of Gozer in Ghostbusters.
Oh my
Afterlife.
God, that's
There you
so
go.
good. Yeah, that's great.
The protection
the
circle.
protection circle,
Yeah.
basically. And I do like, so at the end of this, they make another protection circle, and I appreciate that they didn't. She's like, I looked it up on the Wiccan Reddit,
Right,
and I
because like,
found
how
it.
would you know how to say the words or
Right,
whatever?
right.
Yeah, it's good.
And this protection circle is, and he goes, is that cocaine? And she goes, apparently any powder works.
Yeah.
And like that line got me. Like I was like, that's really, I like that a
I thought it
lot.
was funny, and I thought it worked perfectly with like what would be the modern day equivalent of some crazy spell book. It's like, Wiccan Reddit
Wiccan
or whatever.
Reddit, or-
yeah, like
the subreddit for Wiccan.
Wikipedia, whatever. Yeah,
So they capture him, and of course now
and they beat the crap. So we
They
see
chop
that
him up
the
and-
mob boss has this torture lair that we see in the beginning of the movie, and that's where they end up for the final scene. They're like, all right, and they just start demolishing.
they chop him
Dracula.
up into like, they
Put him in ice cubes.
put him in
chop
ice cubes,
up,
chop him up. They do
throw
all
him in
kinds
the
of stuff.
sewer.
And that's how this, and then of course,
and they're like, we don't know if this will kill him for good. Dracula's hard to kill.
Depends on how much money this movie makes.
That's exactly right. It might kill him for good.
Killed him for good.
but it's gonna take a long time for him to heal, because we saw when he got burned, it took him 90 years to heal or whatever.
Right.
So
we could bring. So the end of the movie is they go back to the support group, and I think my favorite part of this ending sequence is the guy who leaves the group, and he was like, "Sometimes you see things you can't unsee, and you hear things and you know things that you can't unknow." And the gal Awkwafina's like, "You think he's okay?" And he was like, "I don't know."
I thought that guy was really funny.
I think that guy is really funny. Do you know my favorite lore of Dracula?
No.
Did you ever see Dracula 2000?
Sure, Johnny Lee Miller.
Yes.
Hack the Planet.
Okay, but that's the one with Gerard Butler, right?
Yeah, he's Dracula, right?
Yeah. But that Dracula is Judas.
Yeah, that's right. You've mentioned
that he's allergic to silver because of the silver pieces. That's why the cross affects him the way that
cool
it does.
Mythology, yeah.
And I was like, of all of the Dracula mythologies, like that's kind of dope. Like the idea that they went all the way back to, and that God was pissed off at Judas because of what he did.
Because it's 2000, man. It was rad.
I don't even think that was. I think that was even earlier than 2000. You know, there's
I think
sequels.
It came out like 1998
or something.
1999.
Very close.
Like, hey man, 2000's right around the corner. Let's put it in our title. Jennifer Esposito is in that movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
With Omar Epps as well.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Just be glad they didn't call it Dracula Y2K.
You know they wanted it. You know they did.
That movie was made back in the 1900s, though. So
Yeah, it's pretty old.
Outstanding callback. Yeah, I think this. Look, I don't disagree with you, Tom. This is not a good movie.
Like, none of this worked for me.
I totally understand that.
I just don't think it's bad, because I do feel like it is exactly what it set out to do. It's not a great film, but it's
funny.
This is the epitome of a deep fried taco.
It's a good deep fried taco.
Yeah, this is a very, very.
I will accept it as a deep fried taco.
It is a perfectly deep fried taco.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not overcooked. It's got the right amount of meat in it, a little bit of cheese.
But aren't deep fried tacos movies that set out to be good and end up being deep fried tacos?
This movie absolutely set out to be good.
I think they were trying to make a good movie.
I do. I think they were trying to make.
They were trying to make a tongue-in-cheek movie, but it just did not work for me.
Yeah, that's what this is. So there you go.
I guess that's it for this one. Let's go around the table and everyone can say where to find them.
This is Joe. You can follow me on the Twitter at JoeyButts, BUTTS21.
Do you have a letterbox?
Oh, I do have a letterbox, also by the
Jeez.
same name, at Joey Butts BUTT. I actually am getting a bunch of followers, which is kind of fun.
Every week I start going, and he goes, also I have a letterbox, and then I'm waiting for it.
I completely forgot about
it. This is Kevin. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin R. Brackett.
And James, where can they find you and your wares?
James Enstall, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Geek To Me Radio, and we do a live radio show every Sunday night, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific. You can stream that on KTRS.com or follow us on YouTube and Facebook. You can stream it there when we do video.
Awesome. And you can find me on Twitter at Roger Kubert or on Facebook at facebook.com/Tom O'Keefe. So that's it for this one. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, Dracula is blasted with a solar energy machine.
Get ready for a spoiler. Won't say it twice, 'cause we already